What's going on, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Jersey Joe Show. I'm your host, Jersey Joe, and this is a place where we talk about a little bit of everything, but mostly hockey. And this is the second part of my 31 Teams in 31 Days series, and we're going to be talking about the second place runner-ups, the Nashville Predators. And I have to say, this is one of my favorite teams right now. They are a fantastic team to watch. They arguably improved over this offseason while the Penguins downgraded a little bit. And so I'm calling them as cup winners next season. I really think they could do it. It's between them and Tampa as my two favorites, depending on how healthy Tampa stays. But Nashville is a beast right now. They are becoming something else. So let's go down the line a little bit and talk about what had happened this offseason. So I guess you can call them the key arrivals this offseason. So in terms of arrivals, we have Nick Bonino coming in from Pittsburgh, Scott Hartnell coming in from Columbus, and Alexei Emelin coming from Montreal. They did lose a few players, though. As we know, James Neals was drafted by Vegas in the expansion draft. Colin Wilson was traded to Colorado, and their captain, Mike Fisher, retired. But if you try to sum it up, I do think that the arrival of Nick Bonino, it's going to take care of itself in terms of what they lost with James Neal and Mike Fisher. I don't think Fisher and Neal provided as much tangible element as much as they provided leadership, but I think the teams a year older now, they had such a deep playoff run that they're all more experienced. They're not going to need that veteran presence as much next season. And so having the skills of Nick Bonino and then having Alexei Emelin as your 5th D with Roman Josi and Subban and Matthias and Ekholm, you're going to have a fantastic core of players going into the next season. They were surprisingly very average last year, and I know NHL.com talked about this almost at length. They are 15th overall in goals against, 15th overall in goals for, 15th overall in so many different metrics. They were literally the definition of average last season, but they defied all the odds. They were the true definition of just get into the playoffs and see what happens. And I'm repeating what NHL.com said, but this is all true. They reminded me a lot of the Kings in 2012, where I think they were the AC in the West, and then they lost 2 games en route to the Stanley Cup Finals, where they lost 2 more to the Devils, and ended up winning the Cup with 4 losses as an 8th seed, which is unprecedented. And then Nashville comes in this season, they sweep Chicago, they beat Anaheim, they beat St. Louis, and then they take the Pittsburgh Penguins to 6 games. I do think had Ryan Johansson been healthy, it could have been easily a 7-game series and Nashville could have won it. But there's 2 things I do want to talk about with that point. Pekka Rinne is a giant question mark for Nashville going into next year. He really had a steady decline from round 1 to round 4 in the playoffs. If you look at a line chart of his save percentage, it's a straight slope down. I mean, there was no coming back to where it was in round 1 when he was in round 2. Round 3, he was worse than round 2, and you ended up getting just pulverized in game 3 by the Penguins. I think it was game 5 by the Penguins, 6-0. He's going to be a huge question mark. He's either confidence issues or he's just streaky. He's not as dependable as you would like in a Stanley Cup contender. So I do think that he's going to be a big question mark for them going into next season. He could easily be a top 5 goaltender. He can easily be a bottom 5 goaltender. He's really an enigma and very, very strange in terms of consistency. And so it's interesting to see how he's going to be next season. If they do need to bring in someone else to rein him in a little bit and have a 1A, 1B situation rather than rely strictly on him, which is a big downfall. I mean, a couple of years ago, he was top 3 in the league in terms of just pure save percentage and goals against, and now we're wondering if he should even be a starting goaltender. And so I'm looking forward to seeing how he does. I do hope he bounces back. I mean, when Rinne is on his game, he is on fire. He is unbelievable. He is a brick wall, and it's treat to watch, but when he's off his game, he's like an AHL goalie. It doesn't make a lot of sense. He's not young. He's past the point where he should be inconsistent like that. He should be a lot more developed and just solidified in terms of his game. And so I'm wondering what it'll be like next season. And then another point was Ryan Johansson in terms of his injury. Thankfully, he should be back to full health this coming season. He had a horrific injury back, I think it was against Anaheim. It didn't look that bad on TV, but it turns out that he could have died from it. I believe he ruptured a blood vessel and he had internal bleeding, and the doctors basically said that he could have died within the next couple of hours. So it was not even gruesome. It was just a scary injury, but it looks like he's going to be okay. And he just signed a massive 8-year contract with the Predators. So they locked him up for good for a long time, and he's going to be that 1C for them for at least 5 or 6 of those years, if not more. And so the fact that they locked up Johansson, they locked up Arvidsson, they got Nick Bonino, they're pretty much going to be one of the top teams in the West next year. And like I said before, I'm calling them as the Stanley Cup winners. Between them and Tampa, I do think Tampa has a bit of an edge, but I doubt that Tampa can stay healthy. I doubt that they can click on all cylinders like they should be, because they haven't for years now. And so I really do think that Nashville is just going to clean up the West, end up in the Stanley Cup Finals, and just win the Cup home for the first time in franchise history. But we've been saying that for a long time now. Nashville's been an up-and-comer, and I think this is their year. I say that about Washington a lot. It's never their year, so who knows? Coming in April, Nashville was AC in the West. We didn't think they were going to be able to pull it off, and they did. They ended up winning the Western Conference Finals and taking it 6 games to the Pittsburgh Penguins. And so anything can happen. And I'm not a betting man, so I'm not going to bet anything. But if I had to guess, I'd say Nashville's going to win the Cup next year. They're one of my favorite teams to do so. And so that's what Nashville's looking like going into next season. So I'm just very excited to see them, and I'm very excited to see Pittsburgh. I'm usually always excited to see the Stanley Cup contenders, just to see how they really rebound from the playoff hangover, they call it. It was strange to see the Kings in 2015 miss the playoffs completely. I'm hoping that doesn't happen in Nashville. I'm a division opponent of Pittsburgh, so while I don't think they'll be knocked out of the playoffs, I really don't want to see it either, because I love the top talent of Crosby, but I wouldn't mind if Pittsburgh falls off of a cliff in terms of performance next season, but it's not going to happen. So, again, I'm doing one of these every single day for the next 31 days, and then from there, it'll be the start of the season. So look for my next video tomorrow, and have a great day, guys. And as always, let's go Devils.